Call the public session of our regular school board meeting for February to order. Appreciate those that are in attendance. This is getting to be a new experience for us, and it has worked much better in this facility than in the past. Could we get a roll call?
Mr. Burton?
Present.
Ms. Crump? Here. Mr. Henderson?
Present.
Mr. Mills?
Here.
Mr. Moon?
Here.
Reverend Ramsey?
Present.
And Mr. Doss is absent.
Can we get a motion to certify action from closed session?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. Motion made and second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Burton?
Aye.
Ms. Crump? Aye. Mr. Henderson?
Aye.
Mr. Mills? Aye. Mr. Moon?
Aye.
Reverend Ramsey?
Aye.
And Mr. Doss is absent.
And for items in closed session,
Motion to approve personnel changes for February 9, 2021 as presented.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
motion made and second. Any discussion? All in favor? Roll call.
Mr. Burton?
Aye.
Ms. Crump? Aye. Mr. Henderson?
Aye.
Mr. Mills? Aye. Mr. Moon?
Aye.
Reverend Ramsey?
Aye.
And Mr. Doss is absent.
Other actions?
Motion to waive school board policy GCBFB-PC to allow the Assistant Superintendent for Administration to authorize the voluntary donation of sick leave days to accommodate the needed absences for a certified employee for additional donated days up to 20 for a total of 40 donated days during the 2021 school year.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion made and second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Burton?
Aye.
Ms. Crump? Aye. Mr. Henderson?
Aye.
Mr. Mills? Aye. Mr. Moon?
Aye.
Reverend Ramsey?
Aye.
And Mr. Doss is absent.
We have any additions to the agenda?
I have a question for Dr. Jones. Are you going to speak on sports in any way, high school sports tonight?
Yes, sir. I had that
Okay.
under my section.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. Yes, sir.
He included in his presentation. Can we get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion on that? All are in favor? Roll call.
Mr. Burton?
Aye.
Ms. Crump? Aye. Mr. Henderson?
Aye.
Mr. Mills? Aye. Mr. Moon?
Aye.
Reverend Ramsey?
Aye.
And Mr. Doss is absent.
Thank you, folks. Public presentation, we have character word of the month, self-control. I'm sorry, I missed the consent agenda. Have a motion for the consent agenda.
I make the motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Burton?
Aye.
Ms. Crump?
Aye.
Mr. Henderson?
Aye.
Mr. Mills? Aye. Mr. Moon?
Aye.
Reverend Ramsey?
Aye.
And Mr. Doss is absent.
Sorry about that, folks. Now we'll go to public presentations. Character word of the month, Mr. Dallas, Thompson High School student.
Self-control is defined as the ability to control oneself, in particular one's emotions and desires, or the expression of them in one's behavior, especially in difficult situations. In summary, it is the ability to think before acting and understand the consequences of actions. When I looked at this definition, I came to the realization of how important self-control truly is. As a matter of fact, it's the very foundation of many of the other character words adopted by our school system, such as trustworthiness, honesty, respect, fairness, and even citizenship. In trustworthiness and honesty, which tend to go hand in hand, self-control allows people to filter out their desire to lie in order to help themselves. Without it, people wouldn't be able to maintain the trustworthiness from others that comes with being honest. Additionally, it gives a capacity for respect. Without self-control, it would be difficult to look beyond one's own hubris and respect the work and dedication of others. If people weren't able to control their own jealousy in someone's abilities, status, or position, it'd become harder to respect their own peers and for their peers to respect them back. In regard to fairness, self-control allows people to look past their egos and share with others what they do not need. It allows people to notice when they see something unfair occurring and act accordingly to set the record straight. Finally, self-control gives people an understanding of what it means to look past themselves and stick their neck out in order to preserve the greater good. Essentially, it makes people more beneficial, mature, and hard-working citizens. Self-control is the very basis for what keeps people together and working in harmony. Without it, people would be distrustful, disrespectful, and selfish. All attributes that lead to bad citizens and bad citizenship in a community. To me, it's what keeps me working hard to improve myself. It'll be much easier for me to accept that this is as good as I'm going to get, but through self-control, I work every day to improve myself, my actions, to be the best student, leader, representative, and person I can be. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. He's not here. I'll be glad when the student's back, but I like the way he put emphasis on certain words that he wanted to make sure we heard. Ms. Katherine Latchford, would you come forward? Do you want to speak to the board? I normally we'll give 3 minutes.
I would first like to start off thanking you all for allowing me to speak during this time for these 3 minutes. My name is Katherine Latchford. Many know me as Coach Katie or Mom. I am an Army MP, vet, and I'm a lab professional, but first I'm a mother. I wanted to touch on some things that have disheartened me as a mother and as a community service volunteer. During this pandemic, I was appalled by the school board and the response to this plague. Not only were their doors slammed into kids' faces, but they were completely cut off. Now, I understand that the mass fear surrounding this virus, firsthand, I see it every day. Yet, and I get that no one expected a lot of the twists and turns in this novel virus. However, as professionals, as adults, and especially as you, as school board members, we look to you for deciding for our children, which we feel have failed miserably with the children of Pittsylvania County. A majority of our county is rural and does not have the same internet access as those that live in the city. Many children were not able to complete their work, let alone sign on, and I guarantee you, if you look in there, many have not even turned in their work or showed up. It isn't the same for our county as it is for other counties in Virginia, let alone in other states. Everyone has their variations of how they go back to school and their opening procedures and sanitization procedures. This is where I feel that the schools have messed up big time. I personally have given suggestions to school board members as far as getting books and work and to students, even meals, to families who literally cannot make the time to pick up these things when they are due or when they need to be picked up. Because we have jobs. We have to do, otherwise we are fired, because fear is not a valid excuse for us to just stay home or just skip out on doing work. Of course, parents' suggestions, we feel that they fell on deaf ears. Parents have yet been left to create another bill for internet, along with sitter fees, which at this moment, many are great-grandparents and grandparents well into their 90s. But the same people still have those fears, and they don't understand how this affects these children. It is detrimental. At this rate, psychologists are going to be your next thing you're going to have to hire for these schools, for these children. But I do have to ask you this. Do you think that medical professionals had time to sit and plan? They did not. What about your local grocery stores and restaurants that people often favor and patron? They don't sanitize your product before they give it to you, but yet you touch it. We had ideas, and we put them together, and we created effective plans. Without those plans, these stores, these restaurants, And these medical offices, hospitals, would not even be open if we did not have a plan. It went to as far as supervisor and presidential levels in every company. With that, we created safe and effective environments for everyone who crosses through those doors, everyone. Schools can control who comes in and who leaves. They have an accountability full of who is there. I don't see where the problem is here. The school board also had an entire 6 months, as well as teachers, to come up with a plan, and nothing was handed to us other than packets that were failed and in massive quantities. As a parent, I spent up until 2 a.m. every single night until we decided to pull our children out of school because I cannot do somebody else's job. I already have enough on my shoulders, and providing for patients was far more than what I could handle. Nothing here supported the goal in educating children and in a safe manner of doing so, and believe me, if Walmart can do it, I'm certain the county can as well. The gravity of this virus is very scary, but death does not mean that the infection will kill you. It is easy to sterilize in these environments, and I personally have experienced this, as well as my daughter, in 2014 when we were stationed in Fort Hood, Texas during an Ebola outbreak. That was a far more deadly and far more contagious virus, but yet the independent school districts had a solid plan. They also had a solid way, according to the CDC, to disinfect the entire school, the buses, and even the teachers got in on it, and they did it themselves as well. They also reassured children, kept calm, and kept the doors open, knowing what it would do if they closed those doors to those kids and their very important education. This is a lesson that we can all learn from a far more lethal virus than the current COVID-19 virus. In short, I am highly disgruntled with these handlings, and I am very disappointed, and it has hurt my children as well as many others who we cannot account for at all. The mental and psychological damage that has been done to these kids has been incredible. Anyone can sit here and anyone can put forth a plan, but without reaching out to parents and getting these ideas of returning to school, it seems like it would be a never-ending process, and in turn, this should never happen again. Not everybody has the same access, like I had said before. Those of us that live in agricultural zones do not have access to adequate internet, let alone communicate with their teachers. Many children have been left to themselves unattended. We've seen them roaming the streets. This is all I have for now, and I really hope that you consider the children and their needs before feelings. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate what you had to say. I would let you know, in case you don't know, our biggest constraints this year has been what the state would allow us to do as far as social distancing. That's been a big hazard about how many we could get in the building.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the comments, questions? Thank you. Recognition of Career and Education Month.
Chairman Barton, school board members, Dr. Jones, and guests. Governor Ralph Northam has designated February 2021 as Career and Technical Education Month in the Commonwealth. Across the nation, career and technical education is celebrated in February to recognize the achievement and accomplishments of CTE programs. Its theme for 2021, Celebrate Today, Own Tomorrow, provides Virginia schools an opportunity to showcase success stories of excellence and communicate the crucial role that CTE plays in preparing highly skilled workforce for Virginia's economy. I read to you the certificate of recognition. By virtue of authority vested by the Constitution of Virginia and the Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, there is hereby officially recognized Career and Technical Education Month. Whereas economic and technological challenges in society are rapidly reflected in the nature of today's workplace, thereby placing new responsibilities on Virginia's education system. And whereas career and technical education provides the Commonwealth students with a career pathway for post-secondary education and workplace readiness in a global economy. And whereas career and technical education gives students experience in practical, meaningful applications of basic skills such as reading, writing, and mathematics, which promotes deeper learning and improves the quality of their education. And whereas career and technical education is the foundation of a strong, well-educated workforce which fosters productivity in industry and contributes to Virginia's leadership in the international marketplace. And whereas career and technical education offers lifelong learning opportunities that provides individuals with more career choices, expanding earning potential, and greater job satisfactions. And whereas the cooperative and ever-increasing efforts between career and technical educators, administrators, and representatives of business and industry simulate the growth of the Virginia's Commonwealth economy by preparing students for careers in high demand, high wage, and highly technologically skilled areas. And whereas the national theme for Career and Technical Education Month, Celebrate Today and Tomorrow, demonstrates the crucial role that career and technical education plays in readying Virginia students for successful careers. Now therefore, I, Ralph Northam, do hereby recognize February 2021 as Career and Technical Education Month in our Commonwealth of Virginia, and I call this observance to the attention of all of our citizens. Signed, Governor Ralph Northam. Thank you.
Any comments, board members?
Thank you.
I'll tell you, and I know if nobody's saying that this division is awful proud of our career and technical school. Some years ago, a lot of divisions started getting out of vocational. Mr. Henderson and I came on board, and we were in Richmond, and they were down there, had 3 and 4 school divisions trying to get together to do one thing like we have here. We were ahead of the curve, and you folks have done a fantastic job. I thank you, and I want to give a round of applause to our career and technical school. These times, we can't do much more than that, that's for sure. Okay, school board clerk. We got a clerk appreciation week. VSBA school board clerk, deputy clerk, certificate of appreciation, Tracy Whirley and Janet Hancock. In appreciation of your dedication and hard work of public education through continued service to the students of the Commonwealth of Virginia, School Board Clerk, Deputy Clerk Appreciation Week, February 15th through 21st. Congratulations. I don't have to walk far. You want me to sit down next to you? Thank y'all. You folks that have been around here know who runs this place anyway. It's these two ladies, not the board. School Board Appreciation Month.
Mr. Burton, school board members, it is an honor this evening to recognize you all for your good work this school year. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you as school board members for the extraordinary leadership this year. Your commitment, concern, thoughtfulness, wisdom, and discernment are greatly appreciated. Each member is truly dedicated to making Pennsylvania County schools a great place to learn and work. Mr. Burton, Mr. Moon, Mrs. Crump, Mr. Doss, Mr. Henderson, Mr. Mills, and Mr. Ramsey, in appreciation of your dedication and service to excellence in education on behalf of the students of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and in particular Pennsylvania County Schools, we greatly appreciate your good work. Thank you.
Dr. Jessica Jones, you want to come on up?
Mr. Burton, I wanted to have something to say before we moved on from school
Okay.
board appreciation. Do you mind, Dr. Jones? While we're still under school board appreciation, I wanted to just share, we just spent a little time here appreciating and acknowledging what our board has done. And I wanted to say to fellow board members, thank you as well. Thank you for the level of care you've taken as board members during this time. We've had more meetings, more information to read through, and we've had more contacts than we have had before, more difficult decisions to make than we've ever had. I appreciate each of you and what you do. Also wanted to take a moment to also address the school division staff. I understand that while we as a board have to make some extremely difficult decisions, our role in comparison to what the staff has done and continue to do during this time has been no comparison, and I say thank you to each of you. The school board members are nothing without the hard work of those who serve in the buildings every day. I would like to thank each person who has reached out to me as a board member during this time, and I appreciate you sharing your thoughts and ideas and concerns, and even your words of appreciation. Even though the decisions that I as a board member have had to make this year have not been in agreement with everyone, it does not diminish in any way my appreciation for your thoughts and for your reaching out. And in times like this, when we talk about the work that you're doing being hard work, that's an understatement. This has been a time to, yes, talk to our board members and appreciate them for the work that they do. Yet I recognize and understand that it's the work that each of you as staff members do that make the difference for our students and our community. So again, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Jones?
Good evening, Mr. Burton. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Hope you are.
I am. I'm fighting a little bit of an allergic reaction. My nose is swelling, but we'll get through it. School board members, I do want to say thank you for your diligence in wanting to work through this pandemic. As Ms. Crump just said, you've had to make tough decisions. And I have stood here monthly with you to talk about what your staff, your employees think, what they believe, what they experience, to help you make informed decisions. So thank you for listening. I know at some points in time, people have argued that you didn't listen, but it's true that you are listening and moving forward with us collectively, and I'll speak about that momentarily. Superintendent Jones, central office staff, and those parents and community leaders that are here tonight and watching on YouTube. So about a month ago, I greeted you about Janus, God of gateways and beginnings, from whom January is also named. It would be obvious that in the month of February, that I speak about Saint Valentine, the patron saint of courtly love. But if you really inspect the history behind Saint Valentine, it is one of mystery and gruesomeness, and not necessarily one that triggers the effects or feel of amour. One I would like to shed light on, though, is St. Christopher. In addition to being the patron saint of travelers, St. Christopher is believed to protect people from epilepsy, lightning, storms, pestilence, and floods. I could say that with confidence that St. Christopher has watched over all of us during this most tumultuous, stormy, and pestilence-filled 11 months. In approximately 32 days, it will have been a year since Pennsylvania County Schools, quote, closed from an executive order issued by Governor Northam because there was a growing concern about an increase in COVID-19 cases globally, and nobody at that time, and argue, some believe now, don't know how to really manage the problem. During this time, your employees have worked tirelessly to provide high-quality educational services to the student population. These services include, but are not limited to, transportation, meals, interventions, and instruction. Not only have these services been rendered, but you all at last month's Budget Committee meeting indicated that we had gone above and beyond and served our communities well, and that you were truly proud of us, and that was heard. I know this is the case as in reviewing through tonight's agenda, a well-articulated Fall 2020 preliminary SOL results report indicates, based on the first semester SOL scores, Chatham High and Tunstall High exceeded the 75% pass rate usually needed for state accreditation in English. Chatham High, Dan River High, and Tunstall High exceeded the 70% pass rate usually needed for state accreditation in math. And Tunstall High exceeded the 70% pass rate usually needed for state accreditation in science. Similar results were found to be true in the middle schools as well. Now, I am grateful for my colleagues and the hard work they have performed to educate our students in school throughout the fall. As some folks have said, we were building the plane while flying it, and arguably we still are. And now at the beginning of the spring semester, have expectations changed? No, they have not. It is appreciated that Dr. James Lane, our State Superintendent of Public Instruction, has waived the accreditation for each and every public school in the state of Virginia for the 2021-2022 school year based on assessment data that was derived and obtained during the current school year. So I want to say you all are correct. We've heard it said repeatedly, you do have the best staff, and the results show it. In the face of perils and disaster, we still found a way to help our students succeed in and out of the classroom. So as many head to Chatham Middle School tomorrow to get dose 1 of the vaccine, it lurks in their minds and their minds of others, will we fully open all schools, K through 12th grade, and flood the buses, cafeterias, hallways, and classrooms, despite having ongoing concerns and issues with current protocols? So a piece to help you with informed decision-making is that we as your employees would like to see a SWOT analysis. What were the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities and threats that either propelled us to be successful or hindered us and made us a failure? And those things we need to have an analysis for so that we can see what we can do to improve. That's what we do as educators. It's always about making progress. So with that being said, we would also like to enter back into discussion, into the decision-making process of what reopening of schools should look like, starting with the tabula rasa called fall of 2021. It's never wise to just shove things down and keep moving if we don't know what's broke and we can't figure out how to fix it. So I know that in a few minutes we might hear about reopening of schools, but I ask you the question, what's the ask of the governor? He said that by Monday, March 15th, there needs to be an in-school plan delivered to him. Well, if I recall correctly, we already in school, and we've been that way for several months. So I would ask that when we talk about guidelines, what are the guidelines the CDC wants out there for health and safety for all, students, staff, and the community at large? Those guidelines are there for a reason, which is what we tell our students, and a part of being good citizens is to follow the rules that are there. So this year remains anything but a normal school year. With COVID-19 still spreading and students having to quarantine while tests are being processed, teachers still need Wednesdays as remote days to grade papers, plan lessons, work with students, and the list goes on. Remember, we work tirelessly and without ceasing. So as long as still the quarantine existing, there's no need to return to school, quote, in person, every day, all day. We're doing good things now. But again, what does that SWOT analysis say so we can do things better? I leave you with what I said in January. We know you can do the right thing. We have faith that you can do the right thing. And when you come together and you realize that we're a part of that right thing, we can get through this as one. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Anybody have any questions before she leaves? Thank you. Mayor Swirly, you're going to give us some good news, right, about budgets?
Good evening, Chairman Burton, school board members, and staff. First, we will talk about budget for next year, and I am sorry to say that I have no news to report tonight. The session has been extended, so we're looking at the end of February, I think about 16 more days maybe, before we will have a House version and a Senate version of our budget to compare with the governor's version. So as soon as we receive that information, we will put that together and we will have something to report. What I want to talk to you about tonight are some of our COVID-19 revenue sources. And I do apologize that this information was not put into your packets until later this afternoon. We're trying to get information together for our meeting next week with the Board of Supervisors. And so what I have put in this letter for you tonight are the 3 revenue sources that we have for funds that are related to COVID-19. We received back, even before June 30, we received our first CARES Act funding. That was round 1, and that was approximately $1.8 million. Our original plan with that money, because we had no idea what to expect when the new school year started, was just to use most of that money to maintain operations. We felt that we would be losing significant state income, possibly state sales taxes, and we wrote an application to use those funds in that way. So far, things are looking very good for us, and you see in the caboose bill that, you know, we're pretty much hopefully going to be held firm with our revenues for this school year, so there should not be any losses. Of course, we won't know that for certain until that's approved by the General Assembly. The next pot of funding that we have, and I think you'll all remember that we did our best to save some funds at the end of the 1920 school year, and we saved about almost $1.6 million. And we asked our local board to approve that money for us to use for COVID-19 expenditures. Dr. Jones and I went to a meeting with them in August, I do believe, when they made the final approval of that. But that came with a statement that they wanted us to let them know how we wanted to use that funding before we spent it. So that is something that you'll find later in this letter, but we do have still that $1.6 million. And just recently, we received notice of our second round of CARES Act funding, and the school system is looking at a little over $6.8 million. So, and let me also remind you that we received over $2 million from the Board of Supervisors CARES Act funding. You know, they did give us money for Chromebooks and supplies for those, as well as ionization units for our elementary schools. Staff plans to meet later this week to talk about our CARES Act funding. And so what we want to propose to you tonight is to look at 3 categories for that funding. The first one being maintenance. The CARES Act funds, they are federal funds, and they do have certain allowable uses. And the one thing that I do want to reiterate is we cannot use any of this money to provide salary increases, stipends, or bonuses to employees. Okay, it's totally used for education, for your facilities, for COVID-19 expenditures, technology expenditures, but not for those purposes for staff. So what we are proposing that we look at is look at maintenance, which would include upgrading HVAC systems in schools, along with replacing replacement windows and doors that would go along with that. And I looked back in our budget request, PCTC is over $6 million to do that. Our elementary schools are anywhere from $2.5 to $3.5 million. So, I mean, that's gonna be a big project, and it's gonna take a chunk of this money. We also wanna use these funds for a very intensive and rigorous summer school program, and that would include feeding our children, having nurses available, as well as having transportation, and that is something that the governor is also has talked about as well. And the last thing would be to continue upgrading and enhancing our technology. So what we would really like to do is use the original CARES Act money, the $1.8 million, as well as the additional funding, the $6.8 million, put that money together and use it for those types of projects. If we do that, then what we will need to do is go to our Board of Supervisors and ask them for their approval to use the local COVID-19 carryover for the following items. And these are things that we have committed to. Some of this is money that we've already spent as well. Doing the HEPA filtration, the ionization units in our middle and high schools. We're already working on that project. And we need to fund a little bit of the elementary schools as well, because it wasn't quite enough funding from the county. We have purchased point-of-sale computers for our cafeterias, laptops for vocational students. We've given our schools allocations for COVID-related expenditures. There are lots of things at the school level. You know, each elementary needs certain things, high schools need certain things. They are purchasing these items and we are reimbursing them. Their copying needs, their paper, postage, all of that has increased tremendously. And we are providing allocations to help cover that, because on top of increased expenditures, they have a decrease in fundraising opportunities as well. We are providing tutoring for after-school hours. We've are using $50,000 for our schools for teachers to help students in the evenings, you know, when they're home with their parents, and it can be a remote student or even a daily student, but if they're needing that extra help, they can reach out for that. And we have spent several $100,000 since March in PPE, specialized cleaning equipment, and supplies, cleaning supplies for our division. And if you remember in November when we provided a stipend for our staff, we did go to the board at that time and ask to use $200,000 of the carryover so that we would have enough funds to provide that stipend to all employees, and they did agree to that. In your packet also, I did provide for you all of the allowable uses for the CARES Act funding, just something you can look at your leisure. So any questions on all of that information? And I guess we would like to present this next week for the local carryover money.
What exactly are you looking for us tonight? Do we have some action we need to take or consensus?
I guess we just need to know if the board is, I don't really know if you need to take action on it, but do we have your permission to move forward on gathering this information, obviously to bring back to you next month for your approval?
Any objection?
Is there something else that you want us to look at besides?
Are you asking in these three categories that you have laid out for us tonight? Is that what you're asking for?
Yes, yes. If you are in favor of us moving forward with those, if you have something else that you would like staff to look at as well. And if we do decide to go this route, then we would need to use that, approval to use that carryover money for those expenses that I listed.
Everybody okay? Move forward.
Okay. We will do that. Thank you very much.
Ms. Rigney, you got a presentation for us? Did you bring your right-hand man in case you need her?
Y'all make it tired of seeing me tonight. Okay. Again, I ask that you think back to the proclamation I just read. I think it's fitting that we celebrate Career and Technical Education Month, and I give you an update on career and technical education, things that are happening in our division. When we think about career and technical education in Pennsylvania County schools, we do strongly think about innovation, opportunity, and excellence, because that's what we provide for our students and our region. Okay, there we go. Thank you. So the first thing I want to start with is recognitions. Oftentimes, we think about our students, our teachers, our staff, and what they're doing. I started off Career and Technical Education Month and sent an email out to my 75 staff members, and I think it's important to share with you the recognition and what they're doing and what they've done since March and even before that. And I read to you, I want to extend my sincere appreciation for each and every one of you for all that you do for our students, programs, and community. I'm blessed to have some amazing career and technical education teachers, students, and programs. You have overcome and continue to pursue excellence in your programs this year, and for that, I am thankful. Thank you for your commitment to education. Thank you for your dedication to your programs. Thank you for your passion for success. Thank you for your love for your students. Thank you for your investment in our talent pipeline. Thank you for your countless hours of innovation and creativity. Thank you for your flexibility, adaptability, and courage. Thank you for your positivity. Thank you for making a difference. Thank you for your patience and understanding. Thank you for your investment in career and technical education. And thank you for making Pennsylvania County Schools' career and technical education programs the best in the world. And I also extend my sincere appreciation to our board, Dr. Jones, and all of our assistant superintendents and administrators for their continued support. When we look at some of the CTE updates that have taken place during this school year, certainly everything continues to move from previous years and stuff that continues to be on the horizon. So a few of those I share with you. Of course, the recognitions. One of the things that we're continuous to be proud of is the amount of scholarship money we're giving our students in Haas. Well over $75,000 that we provided to students over the past several years. The other thing is myself, Ms. Dalton, Ms. Carter, Dr. Jessica Jones had the opportunity to participate, and Dr. Jones also presented in a virtual professional development conference for Virginia ACTE this year. Ms. Dalton and I also had the opportunity, along with Kelsey Robertson at Chatham Middle School, to do a virtual economic development visit that we're very proud to say went very well. You know, typically we have lots of economic development visits inside of our facilities, and this year we had to start off a little bit differently. I also want to extend my sincere appreciation to Ms. Dalton and her efforts in continuing the marketing plan for PCTC, and also for the efforts that PCTC has done for the Phase 1 reopening plan and the success that that has seen. Our enrollment numbers in career and technical education are right at $9,000, or 9,000 students. So we continue to see our students interested in career and technical education, and most often have to turn away students in CTE programs as well at all of our schools due to capacity issues. Our dual enrollment programs continue to increase. Our partnership with Danville Community College allows us to build programs that provide students with the first year of their community college. Industry certifications, while since last March we were not able to get the number of certifications that we've previously done, we continue to move forward, and our teachers are working tirelessly to make sure students are getting industry certifications. Program accreditation. Many of our programs have to go through a strenuous accreditation process to be accredited by national governing bodies. One of those that we'll go through in the coming months is auto body at PCTC through the NATEF accreditation process. Also this year, instructional resources and equipment has changed tremendously. Teachers have reached out, have researched, and have offered support to students in numerous ways. We've purchased technology such as Z-Space. Again, as Ms. Worley, she was gracious to support us in getting additional laptops for students in career and technical education, updating computers, software to meet the needs of the changing programs, auto tech class, new opportunities. When we look at resources, again, business teachers had to adapt quite a bit, so a lot of resources were dumped into that for students to be able to successfully teach in a remote environment. Also, we'll be hosting the SOVA Career Expo, which is typically held at ODAC in October. This year, we'll be holding that virtually in March. Major Clarity is a new platform that we opened up with this year to provide academic and career plan opportunities for our students. And I want to extend my sincere appreciation to Ms. Brenda Dawson for her support in rolling this out with school counselors. Right now, we're getting update, and this was a grant that we received. We get monthly reports, and Pittsylvania County has taken the lead over 13 divisions in getting that out to our students. Work-based learning, again, a new mandate and things that come down from our Department of Education and also from the national level, and we're working tirelessly with our regional partners to increase work-based learning opportunities and get our students that experience that they need. We're also working in collaboration with the new Caesars Virginia Resort to see the job opportunities that will provide to our region over 1,500 jobs that will impact every program area that we offer in career and technical education in Pittsylvania County schools. We're also fortunate that career and technical education, along with the support of Ms. Petty, was a part of VALEN, Virginia's for Learners Innovation Network, which we are moving forward to provide that platform and what we do in Pittsylvania County at the state level. As you all know, healthcare has been a big push for Pittsylvania County schools, and we've worked, and you've seen it in my reports, for numerous years. We've had multiple conversations with the Claude Moore Foundation to provide funds and support in collaboration with the hospitals, Averitt University, DCC, and other institutions to increase our health and medical sciences programs in career and technical education in Pittsylvania County schools. As we continue to move forward with our Go Virginia goals and our focus areas, this again increases. Dr. Jones and I participated in a call today that we're getting ready to go into phase 3 of this process, which will continue to expand funding and opportunities for the students in Pennsylvania County schools. And again, when we're on these calls, we see that we are fortunate to have programs and opportunities for our students that other divisions do not have. And you can see there, again, the focus areas that I've presented before in precision machining, welding, IT coding and networking, robotics and automation, engineering, metrology, and health and medical sciences. Pennsylvania County Schools, again, is at the top of creating and implementing that hub and spoke model that has become a regional training model. We now have people coming from across the country and across the United States to tour our facilities and see what this model is about and are asking for our curriculum and our resources so that they can replicate that. We had an individual come from Arkansas a couple years ago, and they're actually getting ready to open up a $12 million facility in Arkansas that replicates what we're doing at the Career and Technical Center. So we're very proud to be able to share with states so that they can also expand career and technical education opportunities. The biggest success if we've expanded these opportunities is that we are providing a progressive training model. We're starting in the middle school, and we're actually also looking at the elementary school level as we've got grant funds for that. Going into the secondary level, continuing to work with our base schools and also the Career and Technical Center, and then going into the community college into capstone programs at the Gene Haas Center. Just to give you an update on some of the major initiatives that we've been working through and funds that we've received from Go Virginia and DRF. Again, they have been huge supporters in providing these funds for our school division, which has moved us to the forefront. And we are sitting approximately at probably $8 million in funds over the past 10 years. This is actually my 10th year as CTE director, and we're right around $8 million in grant funds that we've received from different organizations for CTE. Our Career Connections programs are at all 4 middle schools and are moving along, and I'm proud of all of our teachers and administrators for supporting that. Again, we are at capacity and are having to turn students away for that program. We're moving forward with our STEM Academy, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a moment. IT coding, networking, and program. We are working now, Ms. Dalton and I are moving forward with a plan also with Mr. McKinney, our instructor, to do some renovations and begin to upfit our IT coding and networking lab at PCTC due to the funds that we received from the county and also from the Danville Regional Foundation. We are in the final stages of our automation and robotics lab. Our robots are in, our equipment is in. As soon as we get our IT components, we'll be ready to roll out that lab, and hopefully once we can get everyone in the building, we'll have a dedication ceremony for that. We're also in the midway stages of our welding program. We've met, Ms. Dalton and I, with several folks at DCC, again, increasing our dual enrollment opportunities, but also replicating that first-year program for Danville Community College. So when students leave PCTC, they will have that entire first year of college completed. We're nearing the stages of the PCTC renovations that we received grant funds for, the hallway renovations, bathroom renovations, and of course the marketing that we're working on now, as well as some floors and some other labs that we did upfits in. Over the summer, we moved our HVAC and industrial technician lab down to what used to be our masonry lab so that we could put automation and robotics into that former lab. It gave our HVAC instructor and program additional space. And we have also ordered and are in the process of installing additional equipment for those students to be prepared for that. Horticulture science, again, we can't thank you enough for allowing us to bring back that program. Our greenhouse is complete, and we are ready to roll out in the spring. And I do ask that you also keep Miss Leslie Bassett and her daughter in your prayers as she is in the hospital at Duke as we speak. Automotive technology, again, a lot of updates with technology and training in that classroom and program. And then we're also in the early stages of promoting a DRF planning grant to, again, get additional funds so we can see where we need to move forward in the next phase in Pennsylvania County schools and how to get the funds to do that. As I said, the STEM Academy, we've been working quite a bit to move this forward. I do want to thank Ms. Dalton, Ms. Vaughn, and others who have supported us in these efforts. Again, we're working to increase Opportunities for students in 9th and 10th grade. A lot of work has gone into this in a short amount of time. And our goal is to increase that capacity and that awareness. We have the Health and Medical Sciences pathway, so students will take Introduction to Health and Medical Sciences in the 9th grade year, along with environmental science. They will go into medical terminology and biology in their 10th grade year, and then if they choose to go to the Advanced Career Connections Academy, they'll take Advanced Career Connections 1 with environmental science, and then Advanced Career Connections 2 with biology. What you're going to see in these programs is going to be something completely different than's been seen before, so we're excited about that, and we'll share more on that as that unfolds. Just as a reminder of some of the grant, just so you can see the numbers of where we are, our elementary, middle, computer science, coding, and STEM, we've got $223,816 to work, and we're working Ms. Golpini and some others will be working with us on that grant to get that into the elementary schools. We had a plan, but of course, COVID slowed that down, so we'll be back on that. The 3 additional middle school Career Connections labs, again, all of those have been rolled out. We still have a little bit of the nearly $500,000 to spend to add additional components to those labs. The STEM Academy grant is $447,396.52, and we will begin purchasing equipment very soon for that. We received $215,000 for the PCTC upfits, and we're near completion of that grant. The PCTC automation and robotics, $357,616.08. Again, all of that has been expended, and we have received reimbursement for that. PCTC IT, $215,111.70, and then our 4 high schools received $96,336, and that money has been spent. And then we've got $165,200 for our welding lab. So again, we're a little over $2.1 million that we received just recently from the Danville Regional Foundation. And then also to tie that into Go Virginia, because Danville Regional Foundation is who we went to save Pittsylvania County schools because we had to have the matching funds for Go Virginia. We received an additional $143,225 for our middle school Career Connections lab, the first lab, which was Chatham Middle School, and then an additional $412,402.50 for the other 3 middle schools. And then we received $331,126 for the automation and robotics, which has been expended and reimbursement has been requested. So again, from Go Virginia, we received nearly $1 million in grant funds. And then we have the IT grant request from the county, which is $199,177.50 for PCTC and $89,200 for the high schools, which has been expended for updates. Again, I thank you all for your support for career and technical education. We are preparing today's generation for tomorrow's success. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hudson? I'm sorry, Mr. Scott, I'm sorry. I saw Mr. Hudson over there. Update on maintenance.
Yes, Mr. Burton, Dr. Jones, members of the board and staff, the following information is provided to inform the board of recent maintenance-related matters affecting division operations. First, work is underway currently to improve exterior access to the Educational and Cultural Center. Since the school board's last meeting, the concrete apron and sections of sidewalk adjacent to the northwest rear entrance to the building have been re-poured to eliminate the former step-up into the building so that the entrance is now at grade. During the course of the month of February, the exterior doors at this entrance will be replaced and automatic door openers will be installed on these doors and on the interior glass partition door located between this entrance and the ECC auditorium. These doors will also be equipped with card readers that will be used to gain access to this entrance when the building is not open for public meetings. In conjunction with the installation of these card readers, new computer servers have been installed in the ECC complex to support these devices. regarding the solar management service agreement and train Phase 3 performance contracts. The school board's attorney has completed redline revisions of the master agreement for solar services, the site lease agreement, the solar power purchase agreement, and the solar management service agreement. These documents are currently under review by SunTribe Solar LLC's attorneys, and it is anticipated that final copies of these agreements will be available for consideration by the board at its March meeting. Also, as noted in Mr. Hudson's memo, a final version of the Train Phase 3 performance contract will be presented to the board in March. Finally, on Tuesday, February the 2nd, a break in the water main located along Route 29 South in Tight Squeeze necessitated the closure of Chatham High School, Chatham Middle School, the Pennsylvania Career and Technical Center, and the Regional Alternative School. The town of Chatham first notified the school division at 9:00 a.m. that a break affecting Chatham High School had occurred. Subsequently, it was determined that the other 3 schools were also affected by the break, although some of them, such as Chatham Middle, retained some water pressure. Initially, officials from the town of Chatham and Inframark, their utility services contractor, anticipated that repairs would be completed by lunchtime. Buses were already running their routes, and children had begun arriving at school by the time that the full magnitude of the outage had been determined by these entities. Consequently, the decision was reached to leave students in school pending the completion of repairs. In the interim, members of the maintenance department staff transported both potable, bottled water, and non-potable water in tanks to the affected schools for consumption and for use in flushing toilets and washing hands. As the town of Chatham and its contractors proceeded with repairs, the failure of several valves made it apparent that the time required to finish the job would be greater than originally anticipated. Once this information was received by the school division, the decision was made to dismiss school at 1:00 p.m. Buses had been placed on standby earlier in the day to facilitate a timely early dismissal should it prove necessary. And we thank our division's building administrators, maintenance staff, and bus drivers for their efficient and professional handling of this situation. Are there any questions regarding any of these matters?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very well informed. Anybody have any questions on the desk reports? Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, sir, Mr. Burton. Give me a second to get a PowerPoint up, provide some updates for you all. Okay, Mrs. Worley mentioned earlier that we have not received a budget from the Senate or House. We haven't received their versions yet. I placed in your packet this evening legislative updates for your review. If you have any questions regarding any of those, please call me and we can discuss those. I appreciate you all's assistance in working with our legislators on the bills that are both in the House and the Senate. Ms. Hancock, you're going to need to advance the slides. Okay. Earlier this year, or really last year, Mrs. Craig provided information to you all regarding the Drive for Excellence program. That's a program offered for Pennsylvania counties and Danville City schools seniors. The qualifications for this program is a 3.25 weighted GPA or a weighted 2.5 GPA with a 1-point increase in GPA in 1 year. Right now, currently, 289 Pennsylvania County Schools seniors have qualified. The virtual kickoff is this Friday, February the 12th at 5 p.m. It'll be a Zoom kickoff, a virtual kickoff with both Danville and Pennsylvania County seniors. One senior will be chosen, will be selected in a drawing for a Honda Fit from the Honda dealership in Danville or $10,000 prize for the senior. Any questions regarding that program? Okay, Ms. Hancock? Okay. This week, the Education Week published their Chance for Success Index. Virginia ranked 8th nationally with a grade of a B out of the 50 states. This index looks at the following performance indicators: early foundations, K-12, and adult outcomes. And the overall score for Virginia was, again, 8th place, 85.3. This clearly supports Virginia's good work with the SOL and standards of accreditation and the standards of quality and the work that we've done with our local, with our assessments, statewide assessments based on the SOL. Okay, I'd like to let you all know, I've been communicating with you all regarding vaccination clinics. We've held one clinic, and we'll hold one more tomorrow at Chatham Middle School. The first was on February the 3rd. We vaccinated 255 Pennsylvania County School staff. Tomorrow we have considerably more staff that we will vaccinate. And then we have a community clinic that Chatham Middle School will host at this Saturday with the health department. This time I'd like to first thank Mr. Mayhew and his department, as well as Mrs. Haymore and her department, our school nurse coordinators, our school nurses, Chatham Middle School, and numerous school staff who have helped out with the clinics. This time I'd like to ask Mr. Mayhew if he will come forward and share some additional information regarding clinics.
Mr. Burton, school board members, Dr. Jones, thank you for this opportunity. Dr. Jones, I think you hit the very highlights, but I'll just give a few comments. As Dr. Jones had indicated, February 3rd was our first vaccine clinic for our employees. That was held at Chatham Middle School from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. We had very little time to be prepared for this opportunity, but we quickly assembled all our efforts to make sure this took place. We scheduled 21 Pennsylvania County School employees to assist. That included nurses, Mrs. Haymore staff. It also included several volunteers from schools. This was a remote day, so we were able to pull this together, and everyone was willing to help. We were provided a limited number of vaccinations, but we were able to vaccinate 255 employees, and those employees will return on Wednesday, March the 3rd, for their second dose at the same appointment at the same time. Our next scheduled clinic is going to be held on tomorrow, and we are scheduling that from 9 to 4. This clinic is open to any remaining Pennsylvania County School employees that wish to receive a vaccination. And these individuals, on this case, we had an open survey where they had to pre-register or contact their principal or supervisor if they had issues with registering online. So we did provide that information on several ways. Dr. Jones sent, I believe, at least 2 or 3 school messenger announcements. We provided that information and so forth for all individuals that were connected to Pennsylvania County Schools employees, ERIP substitutes, PALS tutors, so forth. We were also including them, and coaches as well had the opportunity to sign up to receive a vaccine, and they received an email. The system did not send an email automatically, but I did make sure that the principals knew, and when we signed them up initially, we sent the email back with the documents and what they need to do. So we're looking forward to that tomorrow. So we are, this is the opportunity. We are shifting our efforts, and I think this is an opportunity where we are shifting and going on the offense against the virus. This gives the opportunity for the PCS and the VDH to work together, and they've done a very nice job in working with us on this. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank publicly Dr. Scott Spillman. He's the director of the Pennsylvania County Danville Health District, and his team of nurses and staff has helped us, has worked with us very graciously to get this accomplished. Dr. Jones and his support, and of course I'd also like to thank Ms. Robin Haymore, the Assistant Superintendent of Support Services, her staff of nurses, coordinators, my department, the principals for working with us to help schedule and get the word out and work with our individuals that do not access technology as well, but we're able to work with them. I appreciate that. And of course, we thank all the volunteers assisting with our clinics. Ms. Bowles has been very open to us at Chatham Middle School and has worked with us in organized activities. As you can see the pictures, she's done a very nice job with that. So I certainly appreciate everybody's effort, and I think it certainly makes PCS a great place to learn and work as we continue to work to protect our employees. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The next item I have provides the COVID-19 update that we've been looking at since August of this year. If you look at the state of Virginia, you see some oranges popping back up, and so the surge that took place right after Christmas is trending down, as our numbers are as well. You'll also see our secondary indicators are green, with the exception of the middle, and the middle is the percentage of hospital beds that are occupied at this time. But then the bottom bar there, the lighter green, is the number of hospital beds that are occupied by COVID patients at this time. In speaking with, and I provided this information to you all, but I provided also the next slide, and this is the VDH slide that, if you remember back in August, we used VDH version dashboard at the beginning, and then the CDC developed their dashboard, and we kind of moved to that. Dr. Spillman provides this information to us weekly. He has access to county data. We only have access on this dashboard to regional data. So this is our county data that he provided, and I think I sent that to you all either yesterday or I think maybe this morning. But if you look there, all is the data is trending down, which is very good for our area. Next slide, Ms. Hancock. This is the data that, and it's very hard to see from where you all are, but this is the data that's provided by HR periodically, sometimes 2 or 3 times per week. Mr. Mayhew provides updates on where we are as far as the cumulative number of cases that we've had division-wide. Then the middle column in the peach is current data, and then to the far right, the blue, is the number of staff members who would be out, either who would be infected or would be out on quarantine. So again, this data is also trending down as well. Total cases are 167 since we began back in September. Current cases, we have a total of 15 current cases, 6 staff members, and 9 students. And then the number of staff members who are either out on quarantine or out with COVID-19 would be 31. The next slide, we talked about earlier our students and how well they're doing. And along with, we've been very concerned with social and emotional health of students, and we've heard that from parents. But also, when you look at the data that I have here, this is our PALS data from the fall. And if you look at from where you are, the light blue would be 2019 fall data, and the dark blue would be 2020 data. This is the students at risk of reading failure based upon PALS data. And so you look both in kindergarten and first grade, the overall student population, we have considerably larger number of students in danger. And if you think back, we mentioned March the 13th, beginning March 13th, students were not in school. And very quickly we had to adjust. And someone mentioned we were building the plane while we're flying it. That was surely the case in March when we closed schools and we had to revert to teaching children from home in a county that has limited internet access for all students. So these students had not been in school last March, April, and May. And then in August, we didn't start school until August the 24th this year. We backed it up some. And then we didn't bring children in until September the 28th. And so, all that is reflected in these scores. The next slide breaks it down by subgroup. And I appreciate Ms. Petty and Mr. Cease for compiling this data. And this is very difficult to see as well. But if you break it down by subgroups, you can identify that our subgroups of children are not faring as well either. There's not a group that did not have a deficit between last year's scores and this year's scores. So it indicates that our children need to be in school, and it really indicates the important work of our teachers in a student's life and in their education, that they need to have that contact with the teacher. So I think it very much supports what we've attempted to do this year. Then the next slides, I provided information from our elementary, middle, and high schools from our staffs, and I appreciate our staffs compiling this information, as well as our level directors and Ms. Petty. And this gives us an indication of the number of failures across the different grades. So the first slide there is the high school data, and I'm just going to go to the last column. The columns are a percentage of students failing one course. A second column is percentage of students failing 2 courses, 3 courses, and then 4 courses. And so it gives you an idea of where our students are. And again, it indicates, it shows that children need to be in school. It's so important for them to access their education fully. The next slide is our middle school data, and it's pretty much indicates the same trend or same data that we're getting across the grades is students are not faring as well as they have been in past years. And then the last slide there, that's our elementary data. And at the bottom, I'll just kind of total the bottom up for you all. Percentage of students with having Fs, so percentage of Fs in kindergarten, 11.4% of our children have Fs. The next for our first grade, 11.2. Our second grade, 3.93. Our third grade, 8.14. Fourth grade, 12.76. And then fifth grade, 14.42. Considerably higher than in past years. Next slide I have, this week, our Governor Northam, made an announcement and sent a letter to school divisions and school boards, and this letter is addressed to school boards, indicating his thoughts about returning to school. And so I've kind of highlighted on the next slide, I've highlighted some of his statements in the letter. I have a copy of the letter in your packet this evening, but I'd like to read some of his comments in his letter to school boards. Said many Virginia students are approaching a full year without in-person access to their school communities. This is having a real and significant impact on their educational and social development. Then I'm going to skip down to the red, underlined red there. It says nearly 2/3 of Virginia's 133 school divisions have demonstrated the ability to do this. And by this, he means the ability to teach children in person. But about 40 school divisions currently offer no in-person options, preventing nearly 500,000 students from entering the classrooms. This needs to change, even if the decision is difficult. Then I'll go on down the bottom paragraph there. He writes, to prevent irreparable learning loss and psychological damage, I expect every school division in the Commonwealth to make in-person learning options available by March the 15th, 2021, in accordance with the latest guidance. So it truly supports what we as a division have done, seeing the importance of children being in school this year. So I appreciate your leadership there. Okay, next slide. I'd like to also draw your attention to legislation that was passed last school year by the General Assembly and takes effect on May the 1st, 2021. And that's Code of Virginia 40.1-57.2, collective bargaining. And I'd like to read this, and I'm going to read it verbatim from the code. Subsection A states no state, county, city, town, or like governmental officer, agent, or governing body is vested with or possesses any authority to recognize any labor union or other employee association as a bargaining agent of any public officers or employees, and to collectively bargain
or enter into any collective bargaining contract with any such union or association or its agents with respect to any matter relating to them or their employment or service unless, in the case of a city, county, or town, such authority is provided for or permitted by local ordinance or by resolution. Then subsection C of the code, of this section of the code, reads, for any governing body of a county, city, or town that has not adopted an ordinance or resolution providing for collective bargaining, such governing body, within 120 days of receiving certification from a majority of public employees in a unit considered by such employees to be appropriate for the purpose of collective bargaining, take a vote to adopt or not adopt an ordinance or resolution to provide for collective bargaining by such public employees and any other public employees deemed appropriate by the governing body. Continue, subsection C continued. Nothing in this subsection shall require any governing body to adopt an ordinance or resolution authorizing collective bargaining. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. That becomes effective May the 1st so that you're aware of that code. Any questions regarding any of these items that I've talked about thus far?
Collective bargaining, the board needs to think about it. I would need to read this myself again and see if we do need to have a work session before May 1st to decide if we want to move forward or just leave it like it is. So just be thinking about that between now and next meeting, and we'll talk about it then if we want to pursue it or not. Okay?
Mr. Burton, our attorney can provide that information, a training session for you if that's what you wish to do.
We'll decide next meeting in March.
Okay, next I have in my information, Mrs. Crump has recognized Dr. Mark Linenberg, who is her superintendent in Halifax County Schools, with this award. And I thought you all would want to see this. I think it's been presented to him. Are you aware that it has? It should be coming to him, but this is recognition for him for permitting her to serve in the capacity that she does here. The next item that I have, school board retreat, is February the 27th. Begins at 9 and runs to 3:30. It's going to be in here, ECC, in the auditorium here. It'll be a workshop conducted by Franklin Covey. We're going to provide light box breakfast and box lunch. And please, there's a sheet at your places, and this includes assistant superintendents. If you would fill that out and provide that to Mrs. Hancock, and that's your meal choices. Okay, the next item I have, it deals with high school athletics. Ms. Hancock, would you go to the next slide? On January the 28th, when we met, was placed at your places a memo from Mrs. Elizabeth Craig indicating how we would handle the remainder of the winter sports season and then the beginning of the fall sports season that begins February 4th for football and February 15th for all other fall sports. I'd like to address the memo, what was spoken to in the memo, and then talk about how we came to that decision. If you remember back in January, we provided to you all a rubric on play, and it used both the CDC and it used the VDH dashboards, and indicated that if you were in certain places on the dashboards, and I have that later on the slide, that it would indicate that where you would be, whether you would play or not play, and how you would play. But also, the language allowed for a conversation with your health department director, and in that conversation, if it was determined that the health department thought following certain mitigation strategies you could play, then that may supersede or kind of allow you to play. And so we've looked at that, and based upon our Director of Health Department, he has indicated that we should not play at this time, that we should only be practicing using Phase 2 guidance, which is more conditioning. And so that's where we've been. So the memo stated, and I have some of the text of the memo here. It says that if PCS still remains, and this is from the high school principals in a meeting with the director and to us as a board and to me. And I've been meeting with the high schools on play and giving them the information from the director of health department each week. But it says if PCS still remains in phase 2 on Monday, February the 1st, the following adjustments to the winter sports season are being recommended by the high school principals. First, the varsity and JV girls and boys basketball seasons will be canceled because of the start of a regional play on February the 8th. Because these teams had practiced at any point, they thought that it was important to go on and just let the season end and not participate in regional play, because the wording or the message that we got from the health department was that we should not be practicing doing full practices at the time. It also indicated that wrestling season must also be canceled because of the region start date of February the 1st. The memo went on. The next slide kind of has additional statements from the memo. It says, regarding football, football can begin February the 4th for practices, and all other fall sports can begin the 15th. So this is the guidance that was provided from our high school principals for football. With football practice slated to begin on Thursday, February the 4th, the high school principals, along with the athletic trainer, met on January the 26th to discuss concerns if practice is delayed. If Pennsylvania County schools are unable to participate in district play based upon the practices, and only conditioning is allowed to occur that first week of practices, then they would like to step out of district play and do a county-wide play. So our 4 county schools would play as many as 2 games each. If we can get in that number of games, which would be 6 each, we'd get in 2 games, play each team twice, based upon when they can begin full practices. If they can begin full practices right away, after this week, then they would probably play 6 games, but they would play each county school. If they practice later, can't begin full practice until later, then they would only play the number of games within county until the regional tournament began. We can still enter the regional tournament based upon our conversations with the VHSL using that model. And the reason why they would like to do it this way is that allows for the district teams to go ahead and schedule other teams to play, and then it allows us to still play amongst ourselves. It also provides some equity between the teams, because our student athletes will not be practicing the same type of practice for the same amount of time as the other schools are practicing. So that's the thought right now. That's what they would like to do. Again, the VHSL says that we can enter regional play based upon playing an in-county schedule, and this is what our high school principals have asked. Then on the next slide, this is the other sports: cross-country, volleyball, golf. Because of the nature of football requiring you have 11 players on offense, 11 players on defense, you have a punt return team, you have a kickoff return team, you have a kickoff team and a punt team. It's a lot of moving parts, takes a lot of practice. It's much different than other sports. So that's the reason why they're delineating between the two, or the different sports. So cross-country, volleyball, and golf would continue to play regular district play. Since these teams have been conditioning, and the types of practice are different. Any questions regarding that?
Dr. Jones, I have several.
Okay.
I may say some things that are not 100% accurate, so I rely on you to help me with that.
Yes, sir.
It's my understanding that Pennsylvania County is the only locality surrounding us that is still on phase 2. All other schools, all other communities, all other counties are on phase 3, which permits sports. I would like to know who is the driving force behind Pennsylvania County remaining phase 2 when everybody else is on phase 3. Is it Dr. Spillman? Is his influence channeling down to the principals who may, and I use the word may, want to shy away from sports because of COVID and or money? The money end of it I don't understand, because if you check all of the high schools' checking accounts, their athletic bank account looks very well. And I understand that all the schools also got another $10,000 for JV sports and et cetera. Now, with that being said, if it's COVID that is the driving force, I'm going to read something that the National Federation of High Schools says. They say, if you bear with me a minute, analysis by the National Federation of State High School Associations reveal that social interaction, not competing in high school sports, appears to be the leading factor in COVID-19 spread among student athletes. Now, this is coming from the National Federal High School Association. They say that the majority of sports-related spread of COVID-19 appears to occur from social contact, not during sports participation. I know that you can probably question 10 different organizations and get 10 different answers, maybe. I'm not really sure. But I'm really kind of disturbed in a way, as much as I love sports, and you know that. That's my history of my life, so to speak. It bothers me that Pennsylvania County schools are being influenced by somebody somewhere to remain in phase 2 when everybody around us is in phase 3. If I'm not mistaken, GW High School basketball team has already played 10 to 13 ball games already, basketball. I may be wrong, correct me if I am, but if they played one, that's more than we've done in the county. So with that being said, I would just like some clarification for my constituents and for the rest of the people in the county why we are like we are and keeping sports away from our kids when everybody else has a chance to do that. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Ms. Hancock, do you mind bumping the slides, 2 slides forward here? The other, I think it's the other way. Let's see if I can find it. One more. Yeah, there we go. And I agree with you, Mr. Henderson. Sports are so important, very important for students. They thrive when they have sports. And you look at grades. When children are playing sports, their grades go up. It keeps them active. It's so important. If you remember back in January, we provided this rubric for you all. And this rubric, again, is based on, again, CDC metric is to your left, and then the VDH metric is to your right. Right now, Pennsylvania County is in the highest cases on the left-hand side, and we're also high on the VDH side. So then we look at the other additional language in this rubric that Region 6 developed. Indicated that if you speak, you can confer with your health district, and if your health district says with these mitigation strategies, you can play, then we would say, okay, we can look at it, and we would come back to the board and say, the health district say we can play, our metrics are right here, then we could go on and play. But based upon this, we've decided, and it's not Dr. Spillman, even though he is a piece of this, he provides his perspective from the health district. And if you go back to the CDC information that I provided to you all a couple weeks ago, The CDC indicated that it was safe for children to be back in schools, but they had reservations, the CDC had reservations about athletics, the close contact of athletics. So, from that, the determination was made by me, based upon this information that we've shared with the board, that we were still in phase 2, based upon Dr. Spillman indicating his weekly updates to me, looking at this rubric, and my decision, based upon the rubric and what was heard from the health department, that we would continue in phase 2 throughout the season. We opted to go on and continue phase 2 because we thought it's important for children to condition and to be out with their peers. But again, the data did not indicate that we could move to phase 3. Other divisions have made that decision, and if that's the direction that we would want to take, please let me know, and we can move in that direction. But this is what we have been using to make that decision. Pretty similar to how we've handled students in school. We've looked at it, we've looked at our data, we've looked at health department and CDC, and really right now what everybody's saying is children need to be in school, and so that's the decision. That's how we made that decision, that we need to be in school. So we're looking at the science, and right now, what the science is telling us is that kids can be in school right now, but right now there's just reservations about students playing ball.
I appreciate that. I appreciate your remarks, and the constituents and the parents and everybody of the county needs clarification on that, but I just still feel that we're doing the kids wrong by keeping us, Pennsylvania County, in phase 2 when 100% of our surrounding area is in phase 3. That's all. And I appreciate your comments. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir.
What everybody else around is doing anyway, where?
Yes, sir.
Because I can't tell you what phase 2 or 3, who's in what. But I know UW did start last week, I think they played a total of 4 or 5 games. And then
yes, sir.
The tournament starts next week, yeah.
Okay. And I think I just have, any other questions about high school athletics at this time? Okay. All right, and then I just have one other slide. Upcoming VSBA conferences are there for you. Any questions regarding any of those? I think that's all I have this evening. Thank you very much, Mr. Burton, school board members.
Unfinished business. Live streaming board meetings. I'm going to apologize to you folks if I caused anybody any heartburn over this. Seems I'm the one that mentioned it when we first moved into this room. First meeting, we didn't have the equipment to do it, and the comments I had from where we were before, the quality was very poor, and it led to more misinformation than full. And I asked the superintendent, let's do it a couple of months and see how things go, and then talk about if we need to make any changes. That's the reason it's on the agenda tonight. As far as myself, I've heard nothing but positive comments. What few issues we've had, the people here have been very good about working those out. We had to learn to speak into the mics and not to type so loudly. But other than that, I think things have gone very well. So I'll open it up. Does anybody have any comments or reason they would not want to do it now?
I do, as usual. Are you leaning toward continuing the live stream?
That's what I would be.
Okay, and I think that's a good move. All we've heard for the last year and a half is inclusion and the word transparency, and I think that we need to furnish this for the people of the county. If we don't, I think it would tarnish the steps that toward more transparency that many have desired, that this country or this county and country has made. Also, most school boards, boards of supervisors, and other public officers live stream their meetings. To discontinue this would be a step backward for this county. Additionally, it would be a waste of investments in these renovations that you see here in the county and in this building that have been completed. Lastly, the discontinuation of these live streams would only further enlarge the divide between administration, central office, staff, and the school board due to a lack of communication and transparency. So I urge all of us, I urge you, please get on board and let's keep these meetings streamed for the constituents, moms and dads, parents, grandparents of the county that we live in. Thank you.
Any other board members? I haven't heard any objections, so we just consensus, we continue with this, okay?
Can that be put in the form of a motion that we go that
Can I
route?
make a motion? Yes, sir?
I would like to make the motion that we do that.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Burton?
Aye.
Ms. Crop? Mr. Henderson?
Yes.
Mr. Mills? Mr. Moon?
Aye.
Reverend Ramsey?
Aye.
And Mr. Doss is absent.
Thank you. Pennsylvania Career and Technical Center Phase 2 and Phase 3 Re-Entry Plan. Do we have a motion to accept this plan?
To accept what?
The Pennsylvania Career and Technical Center Phase 2 and Phase 3 Re-Entry Plan.
Mr. Burton, Mr. Burton, are they getting ready to give us some additional information on that?
They are. We normally would get a motion second, then let them do that, and then we can.
Good
Go
evening.
ahead. We don't
Good
have a
evening,
motion.
Mr.
Go
Burton.
ahead.
Good evening, school board members, Dr. Jones, visitors with us tonight. For those that don't know me, my name is Jessica Dalton. I'm the principal at the Pennsylvania Career and Technical Center. I also have with me Ms. Angela Rigney, our CT director for the division. Thank you for the opportunity this evening to talk with you about our Phase 2, Phase 3 proposal for re-entry for the Pennsylvania Career and Technical Center. Ms. Rigney and myself, for the past 2 weeks, have worked very hard with key stakeholders in the division over the past 2 weeks to develop a plan for Phase 2, Phase 3 re-entry for PCTC. Based on these conversations and the information we will share with you this evening, we feel confident that we are prepared to begin bringing back all students back to PCTC 4 days a week for Phase 2 and 5 days a week for Phase 3. Currently, PCTC students are required to attend in-person instruction 2 days per week in order to meet VDOE and DCC requirements. After careful consideration of our plan that we'll be presenting with you this evening, we would like to propose requiring all students return to in-person instruction at PCTC 4 days a week and beginning this February 22nd and 5 days beginning March 8th. Please make note that we understand there will be transition. This is what we just have for you this evening, and we understand that we need to be flexible in regards to these dates. I also have and want to mention the 19 programs that we have at Pennsylvania Career and Technical Center, which you have in your packets this evening. So the critical need to return, if you recall when we came in September and discussed our Phase 1 of re-entry, the programs at the Pennsylvania Career and Technical Center are faced with critical factors that place constraints on the learning environment. First, dual enrollment. Most of our programs at PCTC are dually enrolled at DCC. Industry certifications and licensure requirements. The ability for our students to demonstrate knowledge and skills in the hands-on learning environment and lab settings. Students will have the access to live specialized instruction and training that will allow them to be prepared for industry. Certain PCTC programs are governed by national accrediting bodies, which you have listed.
PCTC programs have to obtain a required minimum number of clock hours. The future of our economy and our workforce comes to the Career and Technical Center and through our programs, and that's vital to our community. No waivers at this time have been provided to career and technical education. So as we review this information with you tonight, we've had conversations within our buildings and stakeholders, as I've mentioned. One of our issues is PCTC program hours. The majority of our teachers have reported they are roughly 3 weeks behind. PCTC has also had to adjust our instructional day due to the impact of contact hours. Skills. In order for our teachers to train students on the required skills each program, we must have in-person training. Program requirements by governing boards, as I've mentioned. Nursing and EMT programs are required to get clinical hours. Ms. Hendricks and Mr. Reynolds have begun conversations with clinical sites regarding how we will be able to obtain these. And I've mentioned dual enrollment credits. Teachers and students are requesting additional time in order to meet these program requirements. As I transition into the next section, discussing mitigating strategies and our health plan, Ms. Yates, our nurse coordinator, is someone who I've worked with the past couple of months very closely. She's not able to be with us this evening, but she did send me a statement she wanted to be included in this presentation. I want to read it for you. Dear board members, PCTC offers a unique environment with class sizes and individual outside access to classrooms. This cuts down on student crossing paths. Ms. Dalton follows the PCS healthcare plan strictly. She supervises her staff and students on their implementation of this plan. Students do not enter the building if there are any questions during their screening process. Ms. Dalton is quick to alert healthcare services when needed. By her quick actions and excellent communication and mitigating measures, the students and staff safely are her priority. I would endorse having PCTC in session 4 to 5 days a week. Karen Yates, Nurse Coordinator. In regards to our mitigating procedures, we're strictly following all Pittsylvania County Schools procedures and following as presented in the original School Board Division Health Plan. PCTC is fortunate to have exterior entries to all program areas. Students are entering and exiting from individual program doors. There are limited hallway traffic. In addition, it was ensured that students who should be out due to COVID-19 exposure are screened properly by teachers, myself, and nursing staff prior to entering the building. Teachers are monitoring attendance patterns daily, and when students return to PCTC, additional questions are being asked, which provides greater evidence regarding students who might need to be sent home or not allowed in the building due to quarantine. Teachers and staff are monitoring all entries and exits during transitions. All faculty and staff at PCTC have been trained by Ms. Yates, and again, I communicate with her on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. All faculty staff have been provided by appropriate PPE. If there is any need for additional resources, I work with Mr. Hudson, which again, I want to thank him and his staff for his support. Teachers are performing health screenings and temperature checks for all students prior to entry. All faculty and staff have been provided handheld radios, and I think that has helped with our communication piece within the building. Each program is using their individual locker room and restroom to keep students separated. Again, students do not dress out and are expected to wear the necessary items for their respective program. Faculty and staff and students are wearing facial coverings at all times. Students are provided mask breaks, if needed, where they will go outside and maintain 6-foot distance. Desks are 6 foot apart in classrooms, and this was blueprinted and mapped out by myself and Ms. Rigney when we began school in September for each program. PCTC faculty, staff, and students are adhering to all expectations set forth. It is evident that routines have been established at PCTC. All staff support each other in our efforts, to keep our building safe and clean so our students can be in school each and every day. Students are doing an outstanding job. I want to commend my students within my building and their parents for their communication and support this year. Deep cleaning at PCTC is not just a Wednesday-only protocol. The faculty and staff and students help clean Monday through Friday, each and every day. Every day at PCTC is treated the same when it comes to sanitizing and cleaning. We also have, as mentioned in September, we purchased cleaning stations for each lab and classroom. Each station includes cleaner, bottles with cleaner, washable towels, dirty bin, clean bin, extra mask, gloves, and hand sanitizer. This allows students and teachers to have them at their accessibility. Daily routines and procedures have been established for each program area and includes a check-off sheet. I actually included those in your packets and folders this evening, where teachers initial at midday and end of the day to document that they have completed those requirements. Please note that each program will require different yet specific cleaning and sanitation protocols. Our custodians have been given a checklist with the same specific mitigation requirements. Again, this checklist includes times when to clean, restrooms, locker rooms, office areas, workrooms, door handles, high traffic areas, and other areas within the building. One question that has been posed, if not on Wednesday when Phase 3 begins, as I stated in my presentation, deep cleaning takes place throughout the day, Monday through Friday at PCTC. Again, we have provided those checklists for you in your packet.
Thank you, Ms. Dalton. I'm going to go over some of the PCTC health data. If you will look in your packet, you will see that PCTC students returned to in-person instruction under our PCTC Phase 1 reentry plan on September 28, 2020. If we look at that time frame and the amount of time that our students have been in person, we had 8 weeks of in-person instruction prior to being out for 3 days for our Thanksgiving break. We came back with 3 additional weeks of in-person instruction. Then we were out for 2 weeks for Christmas break, returned, and at this point we have had an additional 5 weeks of in-person instruction, with a total of 16 weeks of in-person instruction at PCTC with approximately 64 days. The data shows that PCTC employees and students have done an outstanding job following the PCS health plan. All employees, students, parents have followed the expectations set forth and maintained communication with Ms. Dalton about any issues related to COVID-19, which has allowed her to follow the protocol and keep PCTC operating and safe. The data to your right is based on the number of students and employees who are contagious while in school and tested positive. You will see that based on the data to the right, since September 28, 2020, 1 employee and 5 students, and there are 0 active cases at this time. And if you also look at the total occupancy, there were 23 employees and 272 students. The contact tracing has proved that positive cases at PCTC have not been acquired while at school. When we look at our Phase 1 success, communication has been key. We have encouraged an open line of communication between students, parents, teachers, and administration. Ms. Dalton encourages her teachers to speak with her at any time via email, text, phone call regarding a concern. Ms. Dalton has also maintained open communication with Ms. Yates and Mr. Mayhew regarding any COVID-19 issues. This communication has been critical in the daily operations of PCTC and has proved to give students, parents, and staff the comfort level that PCTC is a safe and healthy environment. The entire PCTC family, administrators, teachers, administrative assistants, custodians, aide, bus drivers, have stepped up and helped with all duties and responsibilities. The daily operations of the school has been a team effort to ensure that all PCTC staff and students are safe and healthy. This has included parking lot duty, bus duty, health screenings, coverage for classes, cleaning, washing towels, making packets, monitoring students to ensure compliance with expectations, and most importantly, encouraging and supporting each other. PCTC teachers have worked hard to provide instruction in multiple platforms to support all students. The students and parents value what PCTC has to offer and the importance of the programs that they are enrolled in. This has been a key factor in our success. When we talk about transportation, students were given multiple opportunities to be transported to and from PCTC. This included the opportunity to drive, which most students have taken advantage of. Students can be dropped off and picked up by parents or guardians. Students can get to their base school and catch a shuttle to PCTC, and students will be picked up and dropped off at their home based on transportation opportunities. Ms. Dalton will continue to work with Mr. Scott and high school principals on the number of students needing transportation to determine routes, the number of buses, and drivers needed. This will allow students who don't have transportation to get to PCTC. This information has also been discussed with high school principals and Ms. Craig. Myself and Ms. Dalton have worked with teachers, students, and parents to revise transportation plans for PCTC over the past 2 weeks. The Transportation Department and bus drivers will continue to follow all mitigation strategies put in place in the school division's health plan. This is a breakdown, and I know it may be hard to see all of these numbers, but we have gone in and drilled the data down in terms of what students need regarding home pickup totals, carpool totals, parent pickup and drop-off, student driver, transportation that's provided to the shuttle. And you will see that over half of our students are getting to PCTC on their own, whether it be driving or through parent pickup and drop-off and carpool. And we have also provided shuttle numbers, and that data has been provided also and will be broken down even more for high school principals and Mr. Scott. When we look at our daily schedule for PCTC, again, we have 130 students who are coming in the morning from 8:30 to 11:15. In our afternoon, we have 115 students from 12:10 to 2:25. So our total PCTC enrollment at this time is 245 students. Some of those drops is due to failures because students were not coming and were not completing the work. Phase 2 plan for in-person instruction requires 4 days, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Wednesdays would continue to be used for additional planning, professional development, additional cleaning, remote learning, and additional in-person instruction as requested by programs or provide additional support for students. Phase 3 in-person instruction will require 5 days, Monday through Friday. Students have been given the opportunity to drive to PCTC. This would allow PCTC students to attend all 5 days. With this plan, it will eliminate the need for remote learning. However, should a student become sick or have to be quarantined, teachers would be able to still provide assignments via Canvas or Google Classroom. When we look at communication and data, that has been a driving factor in some of the information we've provided to you this evening. Ms. Dalton and I held individual teacher meetings with all PCTC staff to talk about the regards of needing to increase in-person instruction for PCTC students. Data indicates that the current percentage of students attending in-person instruction is approximately 78% for 4 days and 22% for 2 days. We held a faculty meeting to provide the final information that's being presented to you this evening. And Ms. Dalton and teachers have been having conversations with students and parents about increasing in-person instruction. The feedback has been positive, and a majority of PCTC students are currently attending in-person instruction 4 days per week. Transportation has been the biggest issue that has not allowed all others to come 4 days. On the next slide, you will see there's a breakdown for total number of students attending in-person instruction, 2 days by school. 2 days, it's 55 students and 4 days, 190 students, which is where we got our percentages of 78% and 22%. Also, when you look at the breakdown, and we were posed the question about being able to socially distance, as Ms. Dalton said earlier, we did map out all of that prior to our opening in September. And you look at the number of total students in programs, and if it is a 2-year program, which includes auto technology, cosmetology, and precision machining, along with welding, you will see that those students, again, the majority are coming 4 days per week. When we look at instructional impacts on each program area, the chart that I'll show you on the next screen indicates the number of hours required by the Virginia Department of Education, along with the number of dual enrollment credits for each program area, as that factors into contact hours. And to map out all of that would be quite cumbersome at this time. PCS began school on August 24th under a virtual plan, and PCTC returned to a hybrid model beginning September 28th. Teachers focused much of their efforts on the theory side of curriculum while students were remote, and focused on the skills while students are in person. However, due to the number of days that students have missed in-person instruction and the condensed PCTC schedule, actual contact hours to teach hands-on skills have greatly been impacted. As you can see here, again, the number of hours needed by programs, and those who are, again, 2-year programs, you will see the split with the DCC credits. Some of our programs have upwards of 21 DCC credits, which require a number of clock hours. And you will see that our teachers are upwards of 3 weeks behind, and we also have clinical hours and internship hours that we must meet. Phase 2, this is again an overview of what our daily schedule looks like for our morning students and the morning students, with the number of students in each program area. This would be our afternoon schedule under Phase 2, the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Phase 3, the morning students under Monday through Friday. And then our afternoon, Phase 3, under the Monday through Friday schedule. At this time, I would like to welcome Mr. Reynolds, the PCTC EMT instructor, to give a testimony.
I'm not usually asked to give a testimony unless I'm in church. Chairman Burton, school board members, Dr. Jones, and the other staff, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to take a few minutes with you to hear the perspective of somebody who's in the trenches, trying to teach these highly technical, career technical programs on a daily basis. Now, I don't think there's any argument that there's no substitution for in-person skills instruction. You just can't show a video, a student just can't look at a video, no matter how good the video is, and then come in and perform a skill. And I don't think there would be any argument on that. And as I start my comments here, I would like to add that while I will be speaking specifically for my program, the EMT program, many of the concerns that I will address with you is shared by multiple programs out at PCTC. We're all unique, but we share many common characteristics. Now, what I'm showing you right here is a list of skills that the Virginia Department of Health, Office of Emergency Medical Services, requires me to teach. And in this time of COVID, they have added a requirement that I, along with the physician who serves as the course medical director, at the end of the program, we have to sign an affidavit saying that these list of skills not only has been taught, but that the students can perform to minimum entry-level competency before we can allow them to pursue certification testing. There's 3 pages of skills here, and you say, well, that's not bad. That's a total of 65 skills that, again, I am required, have an additional requirement now based on the current emergency regulations, that I not only have to teach, but to verify competency for 15 individual students. Now, I can show a group of 7 students in the morning and 8 students in the afternoon how to do a skill, but then I have to allow them opportunity to practice that skill and practice that skill until they could basically perform it well enough that they could go out and perform that skill on you or a member of the public. That takes time. That takes time. Now, not only do I have to teach these skills, which are individual skills like splinting, like taking a blood pressure, like measuring a blood glucometer reading, okay? But I not only have to teach those skills, but I have to teach them the critical thinking and the decision-making necessary to use those skills. It's not only important to know how to splint, for example, but you need to know when to splint, when not to splint. You need to recognize a situation when it's above your level of care so that you can either call for advanced level care, such as paramedics, or pick up that patient and get on the road. Now, I'm fortunate that Dr. Ramsey is a former student of mine, and we have ran many calls together over the years when he was with Child and Rescue Squad, so he can attest to what I'm saying here, okay? Now, to teach them these and develop these critical thinking and decision-making skills, I have to teach them assessment, how to examine a patient physically and to question them and get information from them, and to utilize those assessment findings to manage a patient, to use these 65, which by the way is a minimum listing. It's not all inclusive, but a minimum listing of skills. But I have to teach them assessment and management techniques to be able to apply those skills. And the only way you can do that effectively is with hands-on scenarios, coming up with artificial scenarios that they would see in a real-life environment and have them actually assess a patient with simulated findings, interpret those findings. All right, this is what I need to do, and this is when I need to do it. That averages, and I've been teaching since 1990 at all levels, volunteer. I was a paramedic program at Patrick Henry Community College for 7 years. I've worked in regional EMS, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but I'm just telling you the background that I bring to this process. And in 31 years of education in EMS, one thing has been consistent, and again, I think Mr. Ramsey, Dr. Ramsey would agree with me. It takes 15 minutes to run a single student through a scenario adequately and to be able to give them critique. And that's actually pushing it. The national standard for advanced life support education paramedic programs, you have 20 minutes per scenario. So I've got 15 students. I have basically 2 hours a day. It takes me 2 days of class to get through my students with one scenario. If I give them all an opportunity to practice that scenario, averaging 15 minutes, which is pushing it, takes me 2 instructional days. Okay? How many scenarios do you think I need to run them through to get them to minimum level of competency? It's probably 65, okay? Now, EMT, like many of the programs out at Career Tech, it's intense, it's complex information, especially emergency medicine. And to be able to give them the base knowledge in which to pull from to make good decisions and think critically, they have to learn a lot of didactic material. And while my program, like all of our programs, is skill intensive, It takes about half of my time just in lecture and discussion that's not hands-on, just to give them that knowledge base on which to pull from to use the skills that I'm teaching. Distance learning, Google Meets, the packages, the homework, all of the strategies that we've had to rely on since March of last year, it doesn't cut it. It's not effective when you have to teach complex topics and subjects that's required, especially in healthcare education. Now, not only do I have an obligation to Pennsylvania County Schools, the Department of Education, to cover the EMT curriculum, but I also have a regulatory requirement as a certified EMS education coordinator in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I have to answer to the Virginia Department of Health when I teach. I have a regulatory requirement to them to ensure that curriculum is covered in a manner to assure and verify, again, that minimum level competency. Not the experience of a 10-year EMT or the experience of a 10-year paramedic, just entry-level walk out the class competency. And I'm not the only program. Nursing, cosmetology, auto mechanics, many of our programs have that same obligation to make sure that our students, when they obtain a credential, have that entry-level competency. I'm not the only one that shares this, but I also have an ethical and a moral responsibility, I feel, to the public for every student that I've ever sent out into the streets, that I've ever allowed to test, because they could be working on you, or your children, or your parents, or me. And I'm not the only one that shares that obligation with my staff, with my colleagues at PCTC, or all throughout the school division. So let me cut to the chase here. 2 days a week minimum is not cutting, especially when you think about weather cancellations, the routine absences that children have. Just to give you an example, my morning class, I saw them last, some of them late, not all of them, some of them face-to-face on Tuesday, January 26th. Because of the weather, I did not see any of them again face-to-face until this past Thursday, the 4th. Now that was 6 instructional days, okay? And while Wednesdays are they are deep cleaning days, I have spent just about every Wednesday in a Google Meet with my students 2 hours a day. So Wednesday is basically a full instruction day for me. It's just done totally remote. For me to be able to meet the Virginia Office of EMS requirements that I've outlined for you, and the DCC dual enrollment requirements that Ms. Rigby talked about, if you give me, and I'll again speak in personal terms, if you give my students, I should say, if you give my students 5 days a week as quickly as you can, it'll be tough, but I can get them where they need to be. Thank goodness I've only got 15 and not the usual 28 or 30. Okay. 4 days a week, if you agree to start on February 22nd, it's going to be tough. I don't want to say it's going to be impossible, but it's going to be tough. And if we stay on this, some come 4, some come 2, unfortunately, I'm going to have to look at some kids in the end of May and say, I know you've done your best, but you just haven't been here enough and been exposed to the skill set and practice the skill set where I can, in good conscience, sign you off to test. One final thing, and I didn't mean to take this long, but again, I feel like I'm sharing for all of my other colleagues at PCTC with many of them have very similar situations. I've been in emergency medical services since 1984. I'm in my 37th year. And as Dr. Ramsey will tell you, we have put our hands and breathed things and put our hands in things and had things splashed on us that nobody would want. In 37 years, I have never acquired an infectious disease through my activities in emergency medical services. Why? I wore the proper PPE, gloves, face guards, masks, N95 masks when we suspected tuberculosis or influenza or something like COVID. We cleaned our ambulances, just routine cleaning after every call, and then some base cleaning every week or so. In 37 years of being an active EMS provider, I've never caught an infectious disease. Now, we've never had something like COVID, but it is still an airborne transmitted disease. Now, why do I say that? My classroom at PCTC is the cleanest environment. It's cleaner than any environment I've ever worked with in emergency medical service. Now, what I'm saying is the amount with the wearing of the mask, with the deep cleaning, with the routine cleaning, with all the health precautions that we have taken, it's the likely, that environment is the least likely environment that I've ever been in to acquire an infectious disease. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is, as an active EMS provider for all these years and all the stuff that we've been around, and I've been safe just doing what I was taught as an EMT, and we're exceeding that in our schools, these kids are safe. I did not mean to take up as much of your time, but I hope I've given you some insight from somebody who is in the trenches, and I want to just finally conclude with thanking the board and Dr. Jones for your proactive leadership in meeting the needs of our kids. Nobody will argue. Our kids need to be back in school 5 days a week, full time. Hopefully this would be a step towards that. But again, I apologize for the length, but I thank you for your attention and certainly, and one thing I was going to say, they didn't have to twist my arm to be here. Matter of fact, when Ms. Dalton met with me about this, I volunteered. I said, if you need me to go talk to anybody about it, I'll do it. So I was pleased that they give me the opportunity, and you've given me the opportunity. And again, I thank you for your time.
Your passion shows.
Thank you, sir. I take it serious.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. At this time, Ms. Scolpini, who is a PCTC Precision Machining student parent, as well as our adult education lead instructor, will give her perspective.
Good evening, and thank you for letting me take the time to speak with you all. I wanted to take a moment as a parent to thank Ms. Rigney and Ms. Dalton for enduring the long hours it has taken to create these plans, because it shows that my child's well-being and education is as important to them as it is me, so I truly thank you. I would like to take this time to give you a little perspective from a staff and parent point of view. Since we returned to school, there has been a constant flow of information from our administration that has stressed the expectations that they have for the implementation of safety precautions. Not only are PCS's mitigating strategies implemented, but strategies that the faculty and staff of PCTC as a whole have come up with to ensure safety. As a parent of a student at PCTC, I have happily witnessed teachers and staff implementing these strategies. For example, all teachers are provided rags and cleaning solutions in their cleaning station to wipe down surfaces. If I'm not mistaken, at the beginning, it was told that you would use the rags, and then on Friday, they would be collected and washed. Well, after the first week of school, we realized quickly that there was so much cleaning going on that the rags would actually have to be washed daily instead of weekly. This, again, as a parent, was very comforting. Another comforting observation has occurred when I've had to step in to take temperatures for different classes. I witnessed in several classes that there was an obvious routine of coming in and instantly washing your hands. But I think what impressed me the most was that not only has the routine been enforced, but for them to do this when they know the teacher was not there shows that they have really been made to understand the seriousness and importance of those routines. My son will come to me after class and try to give me a high five every single day. And every day I say to him, you need to wash your hands first. And he says to me every time, but Mom, you know my teacher makes me wash my hands before I leave the classroom, every day. But I think I like to hear this, and it assures me every day that this is still occurring. Another example is when I look out my window and I see the teachers taking their students on a little walk or standing outside taking a mask break with distance actually being maintained as well. There are so many more daily occurrences that I could share with you that all would prove that all the strategies are being fully implemented, but I think you get the idea. I am 100% confident that as a staff member and as a parent of a PCTC student, that these next phases will not only be implemented successfully, but safely as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scopini. In conclusion, we want you to know that our students at PCTC are mature young adults who have decided on a specific career choice. Many of these career choices are considered essential in today's society. With the guidance of our division staff and teachers, our students have demonstrated through PCTC Phase 1 re-entry plan that they are able to follow strict protocols and expectations during a pandemic. This has given them the opportunity to continue their training and learn safety precautions and regulations now that govern many of these career paths due to COVID. This opportunity has better prepared our students as they are entering the workforce, continuing their education and training, and to be role models for others. Our students are the future of essential needs within our community, and without the training and all 19 programs at PCTC, local businesses and economic development could be impacted in a reduction of workforce and training gaps. Businesses will continue to search for reliable employees, and without these students in our pipeline, our local economy could negatively be impacted for many years to come. The PCTC Phase 2 and Phase 3 reentry plans are timely with the governor's request for Virginia school divisions to provide in-person learning for all students. We would like to take this time to thank Dr. Jones, Mr. Scott, teachers, parents, and students who have collaborated with us over the past 2 weeks to provide this feedback and presentation for the PCTC Phase 2 and Phase 3 reentry plans for your consideration this evening. At this time, we would address any questions and ask that you consider the approval of PCTC Phase 2 and Phase 3 reentry plans. Thank you.
Give me those dates again. February the 22nd.
22nd and
what?
March the 8th.
Mr. Burton, I have a couple of questions.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to go back to slide 16 and make sure I'm getting a full understanding, which is the slide that gives the total numbers of students that are currently doing 4 days. Yes.
This one?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So am I understanding that a major part of the concern is the 55 students who are 2-day students? Okay. So you're requesting that these students be able to come 4 days instead of 2 days. And they have that option currently, am I right?
They do.
Okay. Then I thought I heard you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, that a majority of these 55, the reasons they're not coming 4 days currently is transportation.
Transportation, and some are, if the minimum is 2 days that are required, that's what some of them are going to adhere to.
Okay, so let me focus on the kids or the students whose concerns are transportation.
Okay.
So they've had these transportation concerns since the beginning when we started. What have we done to make sure, I guess my question is, our decision wouldn't necessarily impact the fact that if we could have solved some of the transportation issues earlier, a majority, if I understood you correctly, would already be coming 4 days.
Correct.
So what's the plan, I guess, if it hadn't already been put in place to fix the transportation problem? I'm not sure how our decision tonight fixes the transportation problem for those students.
Right, and Mr. Scott may want to chime in as well, since he's over transportation. But as we've, again, broken down the data and worked to find, we have found these numbers were actually higher in the beginning, the 2 days and 4 days. We had more students in phase one early on that were only coming 2 days. The students, again, and parents provided that transportation. We've had more students that have earned, received their driver's license and are able to drive. More students are carpooling, so those numbers have come down. But when, again, when we went through phase one, certainly other schools were opening up as well, and there was impact on drivers and the ability to secure that. As we move into, and certainly once we go into this phase, all of this can change at any given time once we increase capacity for all PCS schools to reopen and increase the capacity in the schools. Mr. Scott, I don't know if you want to address anything else with regards to, his support in trying to help us as we've drilled down this data to determine the number of students who need. We find that it's more of them, it's not getting to the shuttle, it's more of them that need that door-to-door transportation. They don't have anyone to bring them to a base school to catch the shuttle. They need that door-to-door, which was some of the problems that we found in the past that Mr. Scott's going to work with us on.
I guess that's my question. Our decision tonight doesn't fix the issue of how do we get these students to the building. You don't necessarily need a board decision to kind of work out those issues, because those are things that those kids have had the capability of coming 4 days already. I guess that's my question.
When you look at what we're requesting right now, we're requesting in phase one required 2 days of students. Phase two and phase three is required 4 days and 5 days.
I understand it, and I
Okay.
guess my concern is if we make it a requirement, but we're not fixing the transportation problem, we still haven't helped these students to be able to get there 4 days.
The transportation piece is part of that, Ms. Crump. That's part of what she's working on now, is to provide a means for those students to come to school for their full 4 days, 4 or 5 days once we get to that point, by providing the means of having transportation from home to school. Similar to what happens during the initial phase when PCTC was in the trial period. Since that time, since we have been in hybrid operations, the primary focus has been to provide transportation to students who have to be in school for their A or B days. And that's why there was a limitation on transportation at that point in time, until we knew that we could completely support and sustain that level of transportation. We had to hold back and couldn't offer transportation to students for the full 4 days if they decided to go that route. So PCTC had made available the option for those who could provide transportation to do that. Now, and again, as Ms. Wrigley has alluded to, during this period of time, and that's part of what our high schools are working on now, is providing the transportation for the students who have to have it from home to school to be able to be provided with that transportation, with, of course, the understanding that when a decision is made, or if a decision is made at some point in time in the future that would affect all students in some capacity returning to school, that the transportation arrangements could be affected by that. So.
And Ms. Crump, thank you for your question, but I can tell you that in the past couple of months, some of our students that initially either rode with a parent or drove themselves, due to where they live in the county, it has been cost prohibited for them to come 4 days, so they have had to back down to 2. So again, if we can work out this transportation piece, which is what we're doing now currently, hopefully we can get all students back on board 4 days.
Can I ask a question? Where did March the 8th come in? What's the significance of that?
So when we looked at, again, the majority of our students, and again, when you look at 190 and the 55, we looked at a 2-week window. just to give again, that working with Mr. Scott and the Bay School principals and also parents and students, kind of that opportunity to phase in.
Is Phase 2 workable for the rest of the year?
Is what?
Phase 2 workable for the rest of the year?
For some programs, but like Mr. Reynolds alluded to, we've got many programs who are far behind, and, when we get into additional time missed for various other reasons, time continues to be a vital concern.
Now, the gentleman just said that 4 days was workable, but 5 was preferable.
4 would be close for Mr. Reynolds. He might can make it work, but 5 would give him the opportunity to make sure that they were all at that minimum competency level. And he's just one of 19, but there's several in the same boat that he would be in.
It looks like to me that the folks that I've talked to at your place are more in favor of Phase 2 than they are anything. Is that the feedback? You said you've had some faculty meetings and so forth. Is that their concern, that they would prefer Phase 2?
They have all agreed that Phase 2 would be a good starting point in our conversations that we have with them individually. And I believe that as we move forward, transitioning to 5 days, they would be in agreement with that as well.
They seem to be on board with that?
The 4 days right now, yes, sir.
And then transitioning to the 5 days.
They were okay with transitions
Yes, sir.
to 5 transition? Okay. All right, thank you.
All of the same information that's been presented to you has been presented, and conversation has been had with all of the faculty and staff.
And we had our faculty meeting this afternoon, and Dr. Jones was able to join us on that.
Okay.
Mr. Burden, I wanted to, just for me, I wouldn't have a problem with looking at us going into this Phase 2 that would allow the students to come in if we could get the transportation piece worked out. What happens to those students if we're unable to get the transportation piece worked out and we make a decision that it's required?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
What happens to the students if we tonight make the decision that Phase 2 is what's required? Because currently the students have the flexibility dealing with some of the transportation issues to do 2 days, and they're still in compliance with what they're supposed to be doing. But if we tonight make Phase 2 a requirement, that changes things quite a bit, I would think, for those students who still may have some transportation concerns. So my question is, what happens to those students if tonight we make Phase 2 a requirement and they're still having transportation issues that may not be of their own doing? If I'm hearing Mr. Scott correctly, there are some situations where we still have quite a few things that we need to work out transportation-wise. So what happens to those students if we're unable to get them where they need to be if it becomes a requirement tonight?
Well, and that's, again, going back to several components of the presentation when we look at requirements and numerous programs being governed by boards other than Virginia Department of Education, that we can't, give them a grade on an assignment or a lesson, or give them alternate assignments when it's an actual skill that they've got to perform in person and be evaluated by that student, by that instructor. So that's why we're requesting the requirement of the 4 days.
So that's
To
the
be
issue.
able to meet the competencies and the skills that are required from our governing boards and from DCC and from VDOE, to meet those competencies for those students to actually move forward with those certifications and also acquire the grades in those classes.
That's the issue with me, because we talked about that very early on. If you can't get the hours in, you just about wasted that student's time for the whole year. If you can't get enough in for them to be able to get certified, you've wasted their time for that year. You're not likely to get them back the next year to finish up.
Correct. And we already have some that we're still working to catch up from, March of last year in the 2-year program. So that's been a huge concern as well.
I would have no, I would be comfortable moving into a phase 2 with the understanding of holding off on a phase 3 until we are looking at a phase 3 type situation countywide.
Any comments from other board members?
No, no.
Mr. Superintendent, you got anything you want to add, say?
No, sir. I know that we've had a lot of different groups working on this and working the logistics together, and so I feel comfortable that we'll have a solution. I do agree with Mrs. Crump that if you as a board decide that we're going to mandate 4 days, we need to be sure that we can get the children to school 4 days. So that would be a concern, but I feel like that we can do that.
Okay. No other comments? I still need a motion to do something.
Are we making a motion to move forward with both? Is this going to be presented as a approval of phase 2 and 3 tonight?
Depending on how you make your motion.
I would like to make a motion that we accept the phase 2 implementation with the understanding that as we as a county move forward to a 5-day-a-week schedule countywide, that we could come back and look at.
The motion is to move forward with phase 2, and then if we get to the point we can do phase 3, come back. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's where I make the motion for.
Need a second? Okay, do we have another motion?
Sammy, I want to second it, but I'm not 100% sure I heard her whole motion and understood what she was saying.
Currently none of our schools are operating on a 5-day schedule. None of our facilities are operating on a 5-day schedule. Part of the reason that we've done that is to allow for a Wednesday day that has been assigned for deep cleaning as a part of our mitigation strategies. This is just my thought on things. I would be comfortable moving to a phase 2 as long as we can get the students the transportation that they need. And then as we as a county look to moving towards a 5-day schedule for all students in accordance with the guidance that we've been following up to this point, I wouldn't have a problem with moving to phase 3. But right now, I'm comfortable with moving to a phase 2 and coming back at a later time to discuss phase 3. Is that making sense?
It does to me now, and I will second the motion.
Motion's made and second. Any further discussion? Call for a vote.
Mr. Burton?
Aye.
Ms. Crump?
Aye.
Mr. Henderson?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Moon?
Aye.
Reverend Ramsey?
Aye.
And Mr. Dawson's absent.
Ladies, I appreciate your presentation. And y'all have done a fantastic job over there with what you've done, what you had to work with, and with your health situation. So we do appreciate that.
Thank you, and thank you for your support. And I do have one question. Are we going to go with the February 22nd date?
Well, that would have to be the board's decision tonight. If that's what you've asked for, was that in the motion?
That was
So-
not.
That's
That was
why,
not in the
that's what I would say, because that's where the motion was made, what you asked for.
Just want to make sure. Thank you all.
And I would like to see you before you go.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Burton,
Yes.
do we need to make an additional motion and send it through for the date? I don't mind making an additional
If
motion
that's
for
what
the
you
date.
want to do. Since they had asked for this 22nd, I took it as that.
February 22nd. I'll make a motion that we implement this phase 2 on February 22nd.
I'll second.
Second, any discussion on that? Roll call.
Mr. Burton?
Aye.
Ms. Crump?
Aye.
Mr. Henderson?
Aye.
Mr. Mills? Mr. Moon? Reverend Ramsey? And Mr. Dawson's absent.
Request to proceed with train phase 3 performance contract. Can we get a motion to accept that?
Motion, we accept that. Second contract.
Any discussion on that? Roll call.
Mr. Burton?
Aye.
Ms. Crump? Mr. Henderson? Mr. Mills? Mr. Moon?
Aye.
Reverend Ramsey?
Aye.
And Mr. Dawson's absent.
Joint meeting with the School Board of Supervisors, change in time. It was scheduled for 2:30 now, was scheduled for 3:30. Want to move it to 2:30 on the 16th, Tuesday the 16th. Could I get a motion to accept that?
I make a motion we accept that change.
Need a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Burton?
Aye.
Ms. Crump? Aye. Mr. Henderson?
Aye.
Mr. Mills? Mr. Moon?
Aye.
Reverend Ramsey?
Aye.
And Mr. Dawson's absent.
Anything else before we adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
I make a motion we adjourn. Second.
Motion made and second. Roll call.
Mr. Burton?
Aye.
Ms. Crump? Aye. Mr. Henderson?
Aye.
Mr. Mills? Mr. Moon?
Aye.
Reverend Ramsey?
Aye.
And Mr. Dawson's absent.
Thank you, folks.